And they're off.
Further Faster, the best independently owned outdoor store in the known universe. Whether you're heading out on climbing, paddling, tramping or running adventures, look no farther than Further Faster for all your gear and expertise needs over the winter. Head over to 57A Buchan Street, Sydenham or Tautahi, Christchurch, or hit them up at furtherfaster.co.nz.
You're natural. Come on now.
Oh, thanks, Matt.
They go something like further, faster, there in Christchurch. Rocky is hairy and so is Badger. Jules is nice and Jacob is delicious. Go to further, faster now.
Oh, further, faster, there in Christchurch. Rocky is hairy and so is Badger. Jules is nice and Jacob is delicious.
Go to further, faster now.
Dirt Church Radio.
Episode 329 of the Dirt Church Radio Trail and Ultra Marathon podcast. And for those of you, if this was a audio, no, it is an audio. Okay, edit. Goodness
What
me.
happened there?
What happened there is I was supposed to go episode 329 of Dirt Church Radio, the Trail and Ultra Marathon Running Podcast. See, I f***ed up too, Trail and Ultra Marathon Running Podcast. Okay, this time.
What's
edit.
wrong with that? It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Episode 329 of Dirt Church Radio, Trail and Ultra Marathon Running Podcast. I'm Matt Raymond.
I'm Ali Pottinger.
There we go. You wouldn't
Sorry,
think it was that hard to start
we
this
got there.
podcast, but this is, third time lucky. How have you been, buddy?
It's a holiday, mate. It's a holiday.
So I heard that you are back on the horse, so to speak, and the horse being your feet and not a horse, and you're back doing some running. How's that been going?
It's going okay. It's actually a bit hard. Like, kind of, I feel like I'm back at the beginning, which also isn't a bad thing because it's better than not being at the beginning. And it's kind of that like, oh, my fitness isn't there, and I'm working on some cues from the physio. So that's kind of hard because normally you just run right without thinking about it. But I'm feeling motivated. Yeah, I'm feeling motivated. And on my run today, weirdly, there was a sign that was upside down that said progress. And it was really prompting some deep thinking from me about that, about what it means.
It's one of the "Are you there, God? It's me, Alison" moments. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, when you are coming back from a period of time off, be that burnout or an injury or what have you, and what running can look like. Same person, same sport, and it's such a different experience, isn't it, from time to time?
Yeah,
like
it is.
Yesterday we ran with someone, and their fitness is usually so much greater than ours, right? And very fast, awesome human being. They turned up and I was like, oh, no. You know, like absolutely going to get just the legs torn off you, you know. But they'd been sick. They'd been, you know, having a bit of a time, and our Venn diagram of fitness intersected, which isn't often, right? And it was a really lovely time. But it's that reminder, isn't it, that not everything in running is a static process. In fact, nothing in running is static, I guess. That's the whole the whole point of it.
Yeah, true. That's cool though when you can run with those people that you don't normally get to enjoy your runs with too. That would have been pretty neat.
Yeah, it was.
But they probably enjoyed it a bit less, going like, I'm not where I normally am. But at the same time, like, hey, get to go for a run with mates. Yay.
Exactly. If you had to have an anchor dragging you, might as well have been us because we're quite good. We're quite good company. But I have, so the people have been not tracking the podcast, people have been listening to the podcast.
With their selfie cams?
With their selfie cams, tracking us with their selfie cams, knowing that I've had a sore foot for about October to now, so that's like 8 months.
Yeah.
My foot's been sore and thought it was a stress fracture and thought it was all of that. Just before we went to UTA, went in for an MRI and confirmed that I have a bursitis under the ball of my toe, and it measures about 1 inch by 1 inch.
Oh, that's quite big.
Yeah, it feels like my foot is on fire every time I take a step. But it's getting better. But it was nice to know that, it's really nice to know that it's not going to kill me, make my foot fall off break my bone. You know, nothing's and it's about sort of managing it and hoping for the best. So that was nice to get a little bit of news that, you know, it wasn't a old stress fracture or a stress response or anything like that. So it's pretty good, but it's certainly kind of, you know, you think about what's in the future, what's important, what you need to do to get there, and it, like you said, it does make you think about progress, eh?
Mm. And sometimes, like I was thinking about it today on my run, that sometimes enforced kind of considerations are actually really good long term. So going, I need to prioritize strength work. I need to prioritize, you know, supplementary training. And maybe it can keep me in the game longer than it would have. It's that sliding doors moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And germane to our guest this week, Gary House, runner, coach, and a content creator. Content creator is quite a funny one, isn't it? And it
makes me think of OnlyFans.
Well, that's one. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? That's where your mind goes. It's OnlyFans, but
which is ironically, I've never seen anything from there.
I also am in that club. I don't know why I felt the need to state that, but this is the thing.
And put your hand up.
And put my hand up. But this is pervasive, isn't it? Like content creation and monetization of content creation is not something that we are native to. And I've been thinking back to our podcast last week, the Aid Station, we were talking about, you know, how curated things are in the running world, and sort of you got this thing about people who we would consider a running influencer then running across Australia and setting a Guinness World Record, and how those both things can be true, but it's not a. It's a generational difference.
Yeah.
Gary is of our generation, and he's carved out a beautiful niche, sort of critiquing and poking good-natured fun at some of the more egregious examples of running influencerdom, hasn't he?
Yeah, but he also puts out lots of just no BS content from a coach perspective too.
Absolutely.
So I have a lot of respect for him with what he's doing there, because honestly, you see a lot of crap out there, and it's really nice to see him just go, you know, like being straight up about it. Like, it's actually not rocket science. Here's kind of how to do it. So yeah, kudos to Gary, because it's, I don't know, for me, like I've talked about it with people just going, I just can't be asked like doing that stuff, but perhaps I should do a little bit more, because even like our chat today, talking with a friend about that, but she was saying, I find, you know, it really motivating and interesting. So you've kind of got to take it both ways, right? And I think Gary is really good at that. Like, he knows that he's got value to add, and it is adding value to people's lives.
Yeah. And also someone who's dealing with a very severe long-term injury, and how that kind of changed the trajectory of his running experience, and what that looks like going forward. It was a really engaging and interesting conversation. And I really excited to bring it to you, but we should probably crack on with this.
It's the greatest run ever. It's the greatest run ever.
Greatest Run Ever, brought to you by Squad Run. Give their 4-week special coaching trial a go. You can find the link on the website, which is dirtchurchradio.com. This is the part of the show where we ask you to write into us and tell us your greatest run ever. It doesn't have to be a race or a mountain summit. It might just be a run around the block. Something that's sung to you for some reason. Send it in to us at dirtchurchradio@gmail.com. I'm feeling a little bit rusty. Haven't done this for a couple of weeks. But this one is from Tracy Pascoe, and it is titled Greatest Run Ever, Rakiura Challenge. Have you done the Rakiura Challenge, Ellie?
I haven't run the race, but I did it as part of our own kind of group challenge, running 3 of the Great Walks in 5 days, which was super fun. It's so beautiful down there, so I'm keen to hear what Tracy's experience of that region is.
Absolutely. She writes, in October 2024, I completed a run that deserves the title of my greatest run ever, the 32-kilometre Rakiura Challenge. Not the furthest I've run, but the conditions made it memorable and challenging. I put in some good training for it, got myself a run coach, a shout out to Eve at Life in Motion Run Club, and was feeling pretty confident overall. I was supposed to go with a friend, but she got herself injured and had to pull out. I decided I would head over to the island by myself as I'd heard good things about the event. Though it's important to note the Rakiura Challenge is a trail running weekend event, you must plan for a 2-day night stay on Stewart Island on the Friday and Saturday nights, and meals on both nights are included in the ticket price. Now that's, if you're listening from overseas, Rakiura is Stewart Island, or Stewart Island is Rakiura, the very bottom of the South Island, the little nubby there. Main feature of this event is that there's always a bit of mud along the track and it crosses the top of the island. The week before, the weather was terrible, heavy, relentless rain all week and a lot even for Southland, which is frankly terrifying. My constant thoughts kept turning to the mud that would be building up. I opted to take the plane over, figuring it would be better than the ferry ride across Foveaux Strait. The plane was pretty bumpy, a roller coaster type ride. We were flying low under the clouds and it felt a bit like water skiing. My flight was the last one to make it to the island as the remaining flights were cancelled due to the weather. We found out at dinner that 27 runners were on these cancelled flights and an attempt would be made to get them over the next morning. I got to the weekend's accommodation, shout out to Vicky at the Bay Motel, and watched the steady rain from the balcony. I went along to Glowing Skies, which is the world-famous merino clothing, and bought a new merino skull cap for the race. Incidentally, Rakiura, the Māori name for Stewart Island, translates to Land of the Glowing Skies. We had a tremendous dinner at the community hall prepared by local culinary students from the Southern Institute of Technology. Pasta, salad and bread rolls, which is the perfect meal for the challenge ahead, she writes. There were plenty of serious, ultra-type runners at dinner. Mostly looked like they needed a decent feed. Lots of chatter about times and the events were being battered around like a tennis match. The doc lady gave us a rec talk and told us what we all wanted to know, the mud level. She said the track got really fun at about 10 kilometres in. Massive doubt started to set in. Maybe this was too much for me, but then I reminded myself, you get to do this. The next morning brought grey skies but no rain. We were delayed till 9 a.m. due to planes not being able to land and those poor runners now on a ferry. The mud was constantly on my mind and I remembered what the doc lady said, run down the middle of the track, don't spread time trying to navigate daintily around the side, which I decided was going to be my strategy. We started at 9 a.m. on the dot and it was beautiful. The track hugged the coastline, which was stunning. A lot of undulating track, but runnable. We went up a very steep hill and at the top was mud as far as you could see. The best description comes to mind is think of that river of chocolate in the movie Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but not smelling as nice. I tried to keep myself upright as much as I could, but eventually I succumbed and fell down on my bum. The downward pressure of my hand moving slowly down into the mud set off an incident alert on my watch. You gotta hit that. She must have hit that pretty hard to set her watch off. I can laugh now, but it was very hard at the time to stop the watch sending a message to my husband in Invercargill. I came along some marshals who had some wet wipes, and I managed to clean my hands up so I could eat. The marshal told me I'd come off pretty lightly. They regaled me with stories of people who had face planted in the mud. 10 minutes further on, I sank to my knees. The extra weight from the mud made moving that much harder. My shoes and legs made sucking noises as the mud tried to possess them. Luckily, I had double knotted my laces. However, there were small breaks in the mud where you could do a bit of running, which made a welcome change. What was supposed to be 2 to 3 kilometres of mud turned out to be about 18. The marshals were amazing and encouraged us all the way. Any finish times I had floating around my head quickly went out the window. The aim was now to get to the end. I met Kate from Christchurch about 16k in and we supported each other to the finish line. I kept my mantra on autoplay, adopted from Courtney DeWalter, you're fine, this is fine, everything is fine. The relief of coming out of the bush and running the last 2k down one of the island's main roads was immense. We realised that we were going to complete this as we ran to the finish line amidst cheers from locals lining the streets. It was a slow, hard slog, but something I will always be insanely proud of. Dinner on the Saturday night was a smorgasbord of seafood and red meat, extremely what I needed after 7 hours out on the trail, and 3,286 calories used. Checking out on the Sunday, Vicky asked me if I wanted to book in for next year. She already had 5 of the 12 units booked for 2025. At the time, I shuddered involuntarily as she asked me this question, but I may have booked a unit when I got home, just in case. Tracy. What's your least favourite surface to run on? Like, and obviously on trail. Yeah.
I'm not. I think probably like really soft sand.
Yeah.
But then it usually means you're somewhere beautiful too. So although I find it challenging, it's the most challenging for me, but mud like that would be quite difficult too. What about you?
Yeah, I'm probably sand as well. I don't mind mud so much. We get a lot of Riverhead, we get a lot of clay. So it's not mud like that, but I find like when we go to like Tarawera or something and people say it's muddy, it's Gucci mud. It's lovely. You know, it's gritty, it's volcanic, and it's still quite grippy. Like when you're kind of sliding around on glass at Riverhead, you're like, okay, this pretty much sucks. But yeah, that 18K of mud, that would get, you know, that feeling when you're running and you've got the lugs on your shoes have just given up, or they're full of mud, and then you're running on like pavement and everything just flies off them. That's one of the best feelings ever as well.
It is, like that clear out. You're like, yes.
Yeah,
look at how fast I'm going now.
Yeah, I am literally flying.
Can I just add that chat about a mantra? I don't know if I told you about the mantra at the kids' race at UTA. Did I tell you that story?
No, you didn't.
So whilst we were biding time, because they all got there really early, so I was kind of saying into the mic, okay, you know, while you're waiting, make sure your race bib's on the front, and also talk with your parents and caregivers about a mantra. A mantra is something that, you know, helps you get the most out of yourself when you're running. So anyway, we get to the start line and I'm like, oh, hey kids, did anybody come up with a mantra? And so the first girl's like, yeah, mine's to have fun. And I'm like, oh, you good thing. The next girl that I chat with, she puts up her hand and she's like, yeah, my one's that if you don't feel like vomiting, you're not running hard enough. So now when I hear mantra, I just think of that and I get the giggles.
Look, that was one of the most frightening things. Like I've been on a fair few finish lines actually, but that was one. Like, and you commentating that children's race, which is how many were there? Like 400? Was there that many?
450 or something.
450 children ranging from like some of them were being carried. But like being able to walk till about 11, 12, 13?
Yeah.
450 just running a kilometre.
12-year-olds. Yeah.
At top speed, and that was truly one of the most hectic experiences of my life. So
it's a scene.
It was absolutely a scene. Complicated further by the gentleman who was finishing the 100K who decided to run down the chute with his dog at the same time. So there was the man who'd been out all night running with a dog and tons of children. Yeah, it was heckers, but it was good fun. And look, all those people, if you're one of those children and you'd like to send in a greatest run ever, don't know what you're doing listening to Church Radio, or that man or his dog. Yeah. But please send in your greatest runs ever. We're getting a little bit low. We've got a few. We some people answer the call, but we've got a few. Right. Well, look, we should stop rabbiting on and get on with our conversation with the one and only Gary House. As we live and breathe, Gary House. Kia ora, welcome to Dirt Church Radio. How are you this fine morning?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me on. It's always good to speak to people that aren't in the UK, if I'm honest. Yeah, I think I've bored everyone over here, so it's always good.
Well, look, thank you for reaching out and doing something a little bit more long form than what you have become known for, and that is the wholesale and systematic deconstruction of the oeuvre of the 21st century running influencer.
Yeah, that's a good description.
You can have that. You print that on a business card, maybe, or which is terribly Gen X of me. But look, let's. I just want to launch straight in. You aren't just, obviously running's a massive part of your life. You also, your life seems filled with other sports and endeavours like that. What was your first taste of sport growing up?
I was, it was same as everyone, high school, I guess. Yeah. Over here, I'm in Wales, so similar kind of to you guys. I think we're not. I think it's not the same as in England when it's the schools are just set up differently. So up here, it's either football or rugby. To be honest, I'm in North Wales, so it's more football. South Wales is rugby. Although we did both, it's just what you were better at. And so football was just everything when I was younger and growing up, and it was my social circle and everything. So running wasn't really on my radar at all, apart from it was cross country in school. I seemed to be able to get the odd day off because I could finish slightly highly in the cross country. But I think it was mainly because all the cool kids were just like off smoking behind the bike sheds, or just wouldn't do it, refused to do it, or they were off playing football. So yeah, I would get the odd day off just going to cross country, and but football was my thing, and I did that too much probably, and it's always stuck with me because one of my school teachers, a PE teacher, said like you basically you shouldn't be playing football. You're built for running, and it did stick with me. I don't think you'd be able to say it these days because I was basically just a scrawny kid getting knocked around on the football pitch, and he was telling me to go off and do running, I think. But it did stick with me. So that was through my early years, literally until I moved away from like the family home at around 20. That was me just playing football, to be honest, and the usual stuff, bit of tennis, bit of golf, bit of hockey and all that kind of thing. But yeah, mainly football.
Can I ask the follow on? What position were you?
Usually on the wings, yeah. So just up and down, left or right. But I was fortunate enough to be in quite a good football team in the high school, especially, and I would get moved back to just play defence. And like my temperament was quite good for defence because I was young, kind of scrawny, but I was also keen to get after it. So yeah, I'd just be a nuisance for people, to be honest. Probably like my personality that you see on Instagram, which is exaggerated on there. It was exaggerated on the football pitch as well because I was backed up by all these big kind of rugby lads that were just playing football. Yeah.
So when did you decide to follow your teacher's advice and get into running?
I didn't decide to. It was I moved to Manchester. I've told this before, but it was I'm from like a very small village or town, and I moved to the city, Manchester, and it was to be a hairdresser, which is completely different. So, but it was just more for the social aspect of it. I was working on bars and stuff like this, and I loved the interaction. So I've met a friend he became a friend who was just cutting women's hair, and he said you do the same thing all day, but you get to work in the day. So I did that for about 6 months and didn't tell any of my friends because obviously, like 20 years ago, being a woman's hairdresser wasn't the smartest moves in the football world. But I moved to Manchester, had no money, had no friends, couldn't afford to go to the gym, all that kind of stuff. But I wanted to keep fit, so I just started running down they have the canal networks down there. So I would literally, and I think a little bit of it was I was chucked into a 6-person professional house, mix of cultures, mix of there was a doctor, there's a taxi driver, so everyone's from different backgrounds. I wasn't used to it, so I would literally just put my football kit on, look at the clock on the way out of the door, go running down the canal and come back in, and then look at the clock again and just look how long in terms of time I'd been. Obviously, the first time I went, it was horrendous, and I was sat on a bench gasping for air because it's just not football, right? So, but I was keen to figure it out because I was like, I'm a young, fit guy, I thought. Why are all these old men running past me on the canal? So that led me down the path of trying to learn a bit more about it, if I'm honest. Yeah, and that was my first introduction to running. But I knew I loved it because it was just so easy and cheap, and yeah, just picked it up quite quick, I think.
You must have pumped out 20 years ago. You must have pumped out a ton of the Rachel from Friends. Did you?
Yeah. It was yeah, it's weird. It's a different life, isn't it? 20 years ago for anyone.
Absolutely.
But I remember those times a lot easier than I do like a couple of weeks ago, I think, sometimes, because they were good times.
Absolutely. And look, I'm someone who went straight from seventh form, or what would be last year in school, into nursing school.
Yeah.
And so again, as a young man, going at, and this is, God, when was that? 1994, I want to say. In New Zealand.
Start scrolling that thing too far, don't you? Like pick an
Yeah,
age.
yeah, absolutely. Oh God, it's just ask you a security question. Again, same thing. Went to a Catholic school. I'm going to do nursing, and everyone's like, "We knew it." But did they? But yeah, I mean, yeah,
You
must
showed them,
Mine
Matt.
was
I
good
showed
because
them.
like, I'm a single guy, like struggling with girls at that age, to be honest. Yeah, and it was chuck me in there, and I could talk, and I didn't tell my friends for ages. And listen, I got the piss taken out of me so much in the football changing rooms until I took them for a drink after work one day, and it was just
With your
me
mates.
and like 8 of the girls. It's like, oh right, I get it.
See, I miscalculated because I did the math as well, and I was like, class of 120, 5 dudes, 3 of them married, 2 young men. Like, those are good odds. Not recognizing within about 3 days you go from being in amongst the girls to being one of the girls.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Yeah. Plus you see all the stuff you don't want to see. Yeah.
100%. So look, I mean, you're hairdressing. It's an awesome trade. You work in. You're also going out on your out and back canal excursions and getting trounced by the flagrant middle class of Manchester.
Yeah.
When did you turn your head to coaching?
I was trying to make it as a hairdresser and stuff, and it would have been a good career, I think. But at the same time, ironically, I met a girl outside of work, and the two lifestyles didn't really mix. So going out 3 or 4 nights a week in the city as a hairdresser, just having fun, and then I'd met this girl, which just I didn't really want to go out as much and stuff like this. Plus, add into the fact I could see myself getting fitter through running. My body shape was changing quite a bit, and I was just enjoying the running, and almost the lifestyle of a hairdresser was getting in the way of my running. So I wouldn't say I was addicted, but I get quite obsessed with things. So I want to know why I was rubbish at running or not as good as I thought I'd be and stuff like this. So I was reading the old classics, Dean Canaire's books and stuff, and reading about ultra running and I'm trying to adjust my technique and learning about barefoot stuff, which was all kind of seeping in, and I was just obsessed with the stories of it all, really. Yeah. And it like I say, it coincided with meeting a girl, and she was a couple of hours away, and I just thought, right, okay, so I entered a race. It was just a half marathon, the Leicester half marathon, and it's because she was based in Leicester, so it meant that essentially I had to stay the weekend there. and I thought I'd impress her. So yeah, it worked out all right though. We're married and got 2 kids, and yeah, so I can tell that story of being a bit of a pervert, I think, because it was good intentions. It didn't impress her. I couldn't walk afterwards, same as everyone. Yeah, still got beat by all the old men. But what it did start off with was gave me a taste into. I didn't do bad. That was the thing. I was just about good enough to see I could be okay at this, I think.
What time was it, Gary?
I had no idea. People keep asking me, and I know it was between 1:30 and 1:40 for half marathon, which like I've just come into running, never really done it in school, and for me, I thought it was good, and obviously it's not bad, is it? It's just I wasn't breaking any records, but I could see how I could get better from reading these books. So it just threw me down a line of reading more, and back in the day where we had to get a textbook and read about stuff instead of just scrolling and getting Karen to tell us how to do everything. I was reading books in my lunch, and got an opportunity to essentially leave and just put whatever little money I had over summer and retrain. And I retrained as a personal trainer because at that point I just wanted to get out of that lifestyle and into what I thought would be a better lifestyle, working in gyms. At first, it wasn't I never tried to be a running coach, but as a 9-stone runner, by the time I'd finished my qualifications and stuff, I was in a gym and it worked really well for me because I was just attracting people who didn't want to go to the guys who were massive and ripped and scary in the weights area. I was just hanging out with all the women in the cafe, talking to them and getting clients that way. That's literally my thing. Yeah. So it was, but yeah, I worked with runners then. I thought in the gym. So I'm fast forwarding a little bit. That's how my coaching journey started. I was working out at gyms as strength and conditioning and movement and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. To be honest, that's what I thought I was going to do, but I quickly realized, why am I I love running. Why am I spending all my days in the gym? Tried to take my business outside, and it fell flat because obviously no one knows I'm there. So I had to build up my business from scratch outdoors, which was the best thing I ever did, to be honest. Got a business mentor, learned how to market myself a little bit and who I'm trying to speak to. And yeah, we had 2 or 3 locations of a running coaching club now. And that's what kicked it off. Obviously, coaching online that I do now solely, it wasn't even on my radar. A mixture of my own results and a mixture of people knowing me through the club. People were asking me to coach them for races, and I kept turning them down because I just didn't have the time, if I'm honest. And I wasn't confident enough back then to take someone's race and have that pressure. But I did do it for 1 person, then 2 people, then 5 of them in the group. Then I got a bit more, started people coming to me, and that's how I started coaching. Yes, it was quite organic. It was all organic, to be honest. I never tried to be a running coach. It just, people forced me into it, yeah.
Back in the days when you had to read books.
Yeah. Didn't just have to change my Instagram, unfortunately, to running coach. But still, you didn't have to actually get qualified, did you? I had insurance to coach people outdoors, but it was based on my results with other people back then, I guess, and word of mouth and me putting myself out there. I wasn't on social media for any of that kind of stuff back then, but you quickly realize if I want to be an online coach, I have to put content out there. So yeah, just found my way, I guess.
When it comes to coaching and learning, it's always a tricky one. I'm a coach as well.
Yeah.
and people will often say, oh, like, well, how do you learn more? How do you become a coach? That sort of thing. Where do you think your biggest learnings have come from? Or for people that are looking at becoming coaches, where do you think they would get a lot of value?
Yeah, it's a great question, because the first question I usually get is, like, what qualifications should I do? And I can't answer them because, like, over here, I'll be honest, the English athletics qualification isn't great. It's not great now. It definitely wasn't great 20 years ago. And by the time I'd gone to do that course, I'd already done 5 years of like hands-on coaching and working with my own coach and stuff like this. So like after a day or two, I was like, this is not great. Yeah, it's almost like tick boxing and just outdated stuff. And So I'm the kind of person that if I'm in a room with someone and I can see that they know what they're talking about, I will absorb it quite well. I always found it difficult reading from a book unless it's a story. So I can only speak from experience. My best experiences from learning how to be a coach was just doing it myself and making mistakes and stuff like this. It's a little bit different, I think, with trail and ultra running. You have a little bit more license to be creative, I guess, with things. It's not, I don't need to tell kind of John, who works in accounts, who's a mid-pack runner, his lactate threshold every 2 months, right? But I know how to do that for my own, because I enjoy it. Yeah, I'm not coaching high-level marathon runners, although I coach sub 2:30 marathon runners quite well. I find that easier than the trail and ultra, to be honest. So my experience, my advice is always just get experience with other people, other coaches. I was going on courses with people that I respected or I found interesting. I got my own coach that I respected, and I would lean on him had that relationship for about 7 years. I just think it's learning from other people more than just ticking a box on a to get a certificate. it's easy for me to say that because I've been doing it nearly 20 years now in one way or another, right? But experience pays a lot, I think, doesn't it? Yeah, the more you know, you realize the little you know, and it's I have a little network of other coaches from around the world, really, that we all lean on. In personal training, it was quite competitive, and everyone wanted to be right and prove themselves right. And I got lucky that in the gym that I worked, there was 4 or 5 personal trainers that we worked together. There was me, I was quite good at running and stuff. There was a rugby guy. So if we had clients that needed to be moved around or we wanted to ask advice, we did that and we worked together and brought ourselves up a bit rather than be competitive. And I've always brought that into the running world. I've got a good group of coaches that we discuss things with. I think that's important because it's when you start out as a coach, it can be a lonely place. I imagine it's a lot more like lonely now because people think they need to be competitive when there's enough runners out there for everyone. You don't need many runners to be a successful running coach. It was the same when I was a personal trainer. You don't need many overweight people to make yourself a good PT. Yeah, you don't need to be the highest numbers or anything. You just need to you need to work with a good group of people. That's it.
And I think that's important to consider in your own coaching role from applying it in a multidisciplinary kind of team approach now, because a lot of people will go, I'm sure you probably find it as well, but I want a coach that can talk to me about nutrition, and I want a coach that can talk to me about psychology, and a coach that's going to save my injury, or any niggles and treat me like a physiotherapist. And so I think that's also really good to apply in this context as well and go, actually, we still need a team around the athlete.
Whether you're outsourcing that stuff or I'll know a bit about, I know a lot about not a lot, I always say, right? So, so if you put me on a podcast about running, I can easily talk for an hour, but it's not brain surgery, is it? Yeah. But I'm also not talking about the really in and outs of dietetics and stuff like this. You'll have done the same as coaches or as runners. Sometimes you follow into some black holes of research in certain stuff, and then you kind of think you know it until, like I say, you realize actually I don't, because you speak to people that. What's the best answer, right? Someone knows what they're talking about is when their answer is usually it depends. I always think because they just don't know enough information, which is usually the way. So I'm constantly either asking someone or saying, like on a surface level, I can usually help people, but if I recognize that they need a real physiotherapy or a real chat with someone on a diet and stuff like this, you just have to outsource that. Really, otherwise you're doing yourself a disservice and the person you're trying to help anyway. So it's not a competition. You don't have to know everything, right? It's just like you say, it's a team thing usually.
I feel like this is a real accurate microcosm of what the running internet's like now, because I'm not a coach, but I can see one coach, I can see another coach, and there's a coach in the background too. So like the coach to non-coach ratio, and qualified coaches, like I'm not being funny, it's 3 to 1.
I joke all the time. There's more coaches than runners if you go on social media.
Exactly right. And they've got
that's
coaches,
true.
and they've all got coaches. How and be that as it may, how do you as a running coach, how do you build like a authentic, congruent, and uncynical brand in today's social media context? And follow-up question, do you think that's even possible?
I hope so, because I've been trying to do it for long enough. You tell me. You kind of, when I get into coaching, obviously I don't expect to be a marketer, a business person, a social media expert, an accountant, a bloody psychologist, all these things. Like Ali said, it's but if you want to make a success as a business, then you kind of have to be all that. Yeah, I know some amazing coaches over here in the UK, online coaches that won't put themselves out there online. Yeah, so they struggle a bit, I think, because you can't be an online coach and not expect to put yourself out there a little bit, unless you've got a really good network of like being face to face and outdoors and things, and then you coach people online too. So I got taught. Again, some might call it luck, but I chose my mentor quite wisely. It was a business mentor outside of running. I didn't want anyone to do with running. I wanted someone that knew how to grow a business, but also spoke my language as well. It's a little bit like coaching. You could have 10 amazing coaches that all know exactly what they're doing, yeah, and can get you a result, but they'll all probably have different personalities. So that you have to think about that sometimes. So I quite quickly realized that I only want to attract people I want to work with, not the other way around. So it was, you just have to be myself in the way that I spoke, and the way that, like on social media, it was the things that I found funny. I just put what I wanted to see out there, and then hopefully I attract the people I want to work with. That was the ethos behind it a little bit. And yeah, it's a lot of the stuff you see on Instagram particularly is an exaggerated version of myself, I guess, but still the same person. If you put me in a room, I'm still cracking the same shit jokes and still being that person. It's just, you have to kind of, the score these days, you have to be over exaggerated a bit. If I want to grow on Instagram, for example, I put a year into growing that Instagram account specifically to see if I could do it, learning about the different algorithms and how to build a video and stuff like this. And I reshopped some of my old videos in my new way of learning, and that's when it took off. Yeah, so it's, again, that obsessive trait a little bit was, like I reckon I could make a real go of this. I just learned about it, if I'm honest, and then applied it. But I'm still trying to be myself. There's a lot of coaches out there that fall into the trap. Not just coaches, by the way. It's in other, like your social media is so curated. I see on Instagram, I just see running stuff really, because that's my workplace and it's front facing. Whereas I spend more time on TikTok these days, because it's just football, music, and like comedy stuff. That it's like my entertainment. So I don't spend any time at all scrolling on Instagram, because it's runners and that's not my downtime, right? So you can curate all that stuff. And so as a coach, I just think, right, what would I want to see on there if I was just the person that I'm speaking to? It's not for everyone, but that's how I look at it. Yeah.
And how's it grown over the years? Like because obviously now I looked at it just before, you're 124,000 followers on Instagram, which is pretty huge.
Yeah.
How did it take off, and when did it take off? I'm kind of curious with
Just
that.
bought them all.
Yeah, little bots.
Yeah. Yeah. 90% of my following's from India. It was it's not that I was frustrated, but I used to do is just put out stuff about my local group, little videos and things like this, and that was fine. I had about 1,000 followers 5 years ago, something like this. So it was just showcasing what I did, and I had a nice little business. But what I quite like the game of Instagram and social media as well. I was like, why is that person that obviously doesn't know what they're talking about have 20,000 followers or 50,000 followers? Yeah, because it's all right. And as for me, it's all the only way to combat that was to have a bigger mouth. I think, right? It wasn't. I can sit there and piss and moan about someone having a bigger following and a bigger ecosystem, but through luck or through whatever they've done, they've got it, right? So I can't moan about it. And there was a lot. What I didn't like was what, in my view, was a lot of not wrong, but maybe just questionable information being put out there. So, and it's not that I'm always right and that people are always wrong, but a lot of the time that was the case, right? So it was all I'm not. So I'm going to combat that, but I need to learn how to grow my social media presence, and it would make life easier. Is the bottom line, right? So my mentor had quite a large account, and he knew other people that did in other industries, and then I essentially just spent a year learning about. Well, before all that, like I said, I grew to about 8,000 followers over about 5 years, putting stuff out that I thought was funny or that was interesting and things like this, but there was no structure to it. And then I thought, right, I'm gonna really knuckle down and learn about these algorithms and learn about how to structure a video and sound and stuff like this. So I got a new mentor, a guy called Sean over here. He's a PT. he grew his account to over 1 million followers over here, and he's got his own niche. He's Irish, which helps because everyone loves the Irish. So he's got great personality, fun with it, but teaching the same old personal training stuff in his own unique way. So I went to him, and he was my mentor for, well, he still is now, in a loose relationship. But I was like, right, how are we doing this? So I'm a big fan of just going to people, asking them how much it's going to cost to spend a day with them or something like this, and just sucking all the knowledge I can from them, which is what I was doing. And within 6 months, one video really took off, and it was so weird. It was in the December time, and the dog that I had at the time was really poorly. So she had a couple of days left. So I was really upset. I was really down, spending the last few days with my dog. And I'd already posted this video, but I didn't touch Instagram. The morning that I left, I'd gone to the vets and basically came back on my own. So I was crying in the car. And I turned on my Instagram, and I had like 20,000 notifications. This video had just gone insane. And I thought I'd been hacked. I honestly thought I'd been hacked. Yeah. I didn't have the mental capacity to look through what was going on. So I literally just turned it off again. And then the next day I had a look, and it was still going with these followers. So I'd gone up from like 8,000 to 30,000 followers in 3 days off the back of one video going viral.
Which was the video?
It was how to make hill running easier, essentially.
Was that the Don't Be So British one?
It's similar lines, yeah, but it's how to make hill running easier, and it's not about exercises or bands or strength and stuff. It's just get fitter, basically, was the bottom line. Yeah, but delivered in a better way. But it was the structure there. So it was the opening line to get people's attention. It was keeping people, don't give them the answer straight away. And then the answer was almost like a punchline, but then I actually tell people to follow me in a different way. So the whole structure of it mattered. I'd already done that video 2 years ago, but with none of those things, and it just did what it did. But I invested in a camera and a mic, and I shot it differently with that structure, and it did like 2.5 million views and thousands of followers. So it proved to me that it could work. And then once you get on a bit of a roll with things, and I kept that same structure, then another one worked, then another one worked, then another one worked. And the algorithm does change. Like, my account hasn't been growing for the last 3 or 4 months like it has been, but I'm fine with that, because I'm at the point now I'm just focusing on different things. Yeah, I've got my own podcast. I've been doing speaking stuff. I've been doing different bits within social media. So I'm just at that point now where I'm not trying to grow it, and it shows because it's not growing. Yeah. So that's usually my first question. It's like, what do you want to do? You actually want to grow an account? Because it's hard work. Yeah. And I'm not just falling off Love Island or whatever the latest thing is. Yeah. So if you really want to grow it, you can probably grow it, but you've got to learn about it, same as anything. Put time and effort into it.
Do you reckon it would make the world a better place if we made podcast equipment harder to get than assault rifles?
Yeah. Well, I went down the line of...
present company excluded, of course.
No,
Gareth.
don't exclude it. I don't listen to my own. Yeah, it's... I love podcasts, and I think a lot of runners do. So it was audiobooks at first, right? So I remember running like my first 24-hour race, and I listened to the whole of Lance Armstrong's book, which was like 11 hours or something, before I knew what I knew. But when I saw him,
what we all know.
Yeah, exactly. Which made me feel really stupid at the time, but he was a hero of mine at the time when I was listening to it. So I used to listen. Again, I think a lot of runners are quite similar. Put me in a situation back at school, I could not absorb information, but put me on a run and let me listen to an audiobook, and I retain information a lot better, right? So I would listen to audiobooks on endless runs, and then it turned into podcasts. I think I was really early in listening to podcasts, and then I kind of not fell out of love with them. I think I had overload of information, if I'm honest. I would listen to the driest, most scientific podcasts that I would retain the information, but like, what am I going to do with it really? Yeah. So I stopped listening to podcasts for a long time. Plus, I was doing my own one about 4 or 5 years ago, just me sat on Zoom, a bit like you guys are. But again, my job as a coach was turning into an office job. This is like in my little office now. I'm now no longer outdoors in Wales coaching everyone. I'm now stuck in my little office room coaching. Then I'm jumping on Zoom to do a podcast. It was just, I kind of fell out of love with it all until a friend of mine who's a really talented videographer, works in TV, was like, let's do it differently. Let's get it on YouTube and we'll do it in person. And you and my friend Ben, we do it. And our only rule is we do it in person and it's on video and stuff. So it's a lot harder to do, but I don't have anything to do with that. I just turn up and talk the shit, basically. So, yeah.
I don't want to... we've got some questions. I mean, obviously about the fact that you have taken the boot to, you could say, Gen Z running culture and that sort of influencer economy. And I don't want to be sort of curmudgeonly, but we've got some questions. But I just want to know, like, what's been your most egregious, like your best? I have one. I want to tell you what it is, but like the best, most sort of egregious one you've done, where you've gone like, holy shitballs, this is just too good to pass up, and frankly, this person must be stopped.
Yeah, it's not. I try not to. What I will underline with this is I will always. I try my hardest not to make it personal.
Absolutely, yeah. And it doesn't come across that way.
It's hopefully because it's just fun. It's just running at the end of the day. And yeah, some people do get their back up, and I guess I might do as well if I was that person. But it's usually I'm trying to make fun of or highlight or just rip into something more of an idea or a method or a trend or something like this. So if you're one of those people that are doing that and then you take an offense of it, well, I don't care about that, because it's not just that one person doing that one thing that I'm really attacking, right?
Yeah.
So I'll try and do that. Yeah, sometimes, people aren't going to get on and they're from different worlds, but it's ultimately just running. I'm not really trying to attack someone's personality too much. And it's what I will put, and I never delete a comment. It will always be public. I'll happily, and again, there's been the odd time where someone's messaged me and they're obviously not happy. Yeah. And I'll say, look, if it's really affecting you, I will take it down. And then no one's ever asked me to take it down when I push back a little bit, right? Yeah. And I'm like, if I'd like to think that people can see the fun in it, and yeah, it's but at the same time, some of it is serious in terms of like they've all got a reason for it. Yeah. If I think people are pushing stuff that shouldn't be pushing, or an idea that shouldn't be pushed, then like I said, the only way for me to combat that is with a bigger mouth. And and I do it that way. So my answer is I can't think of one off the top of my head, because I love that. Do you know what? I'll see something happen, or people will send me, and if it's something I know that I think will be good, I literally I'm laughing and I can't wait to do it. Yeah. So it happens quite a lot, and sometimes it falls flat on its face, but I enjoyed doing it. So yeah.
Can I tell you my favorite? My favorite is the psh guy. Like,
yeah,
that is.
Like, would you believe that guy is real unless you actually like?
I went to Sydney. So when Ellie and my wife Rebecca and I, we were lucky enough, we went over for an event in the Blue Mountains when was it? In September last year.
August,
Rebecca and I went back through Sydney, and it was a hot day, and there were packs of these dudes running around Sydney, the CBD. Big Jack dudes in the little Nick Bear high rock shorts and with the Cialy hat. And I was like, it's like a Gary House video come to life. There were packs of them, like just gorgeous dudes, right? Like, they're not running for the
packs of them all being individual, right?
Yeah, and they're not running, and they're certainly not running for the female gaze. They're running for the male gaze. That's what they're doing, and not in a kind of that competitive look at me, I'm the pinnacle sort of way. But yeah, they're real. They exist in the world.
It's like I'm from a different era, I guess. Now, right? Yeah, what I find funny, other people might not find funny. And I went into hairdressing. I don't care what you look like or what you want to look like. Yeah. But if it's funny, it's funny. Yeah. You could pull out a lot of my outfits and make probably similar videos. I think the difference is just the seriousness of they take it, right? Yeah. I think that's as soon as you take yourself too seriously and you can't have fun with it and you can't be a little bit self-deprecating, that's not my problem, that's your problem. Yeah. So if someone want to, people take the mick out of my hairline, that'll be a comeback, or whatever it is, or the way that I look, that's kind of fine, right? But when, like you say, when it's packs and packs of people all with the same look, thinking they're being individual, and it's kind of ridiculous. Yeah. And yeah, sometimes it borders into, what I don't like is I need to get my message across that you don't have to be that way to be a runner. Yeah, you can be. Knock yourself out. I honestly, it's like, I want people to enjoy themselves, but at the same time, I don't want everyone opening up Instagram and thinking that's how you have to do it, because it's not. Yeah, I think
guess it's also linked to money, right? That's the thing.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
you can build
Yeah.
a life from this.
Of course you can.
And
Yeah.
I think we had a bit of a piss take chat and I put a photo because I was like, those Omius headbands are ridiculous. You know, like I don't even know what they are. They're $400 and something. So I just like grabbed some ice blocks and put them on my head with a buff over the top and sent it to Matt and Andrew as a joke. But basically, you know, like I'm sure we probably agree that coaching is about doing the simple stuff repeatedly, frequently. It's not complicated. It's not about a nasal strip. It's not about a headband. And I think that's the frustrating thing that you often see is people get so caught up in these little things that are cool to buy or the novelty.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see people kind of calling that side of influence
I
culture out.
Yeah, I do these little Q&As on Instagram and stuff in my stories, or I'll do talks, and it's a lot of it is for my own market research, because like I've got a big enough account now that if I do a Q&A sticker on my stories, I'll probably get a lot of questions. But like years ago, I'd get questions about sessions or stuff like this, but now I just get questions on, does CBD work? Does this work? Like
You
how
live
long
in
do I need-
Wales. What do you know about CBD?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Ask me about running, mate.
Where do I need to rub this CBD and stuff like that? It's or like what? Yeah, or trainer comparisons that are costing £300 and you're just getting into running, and yeah, it's just all the wrong questions. That's what I see, right? And it's all the wrong it's not the person's fault, because it's what they're consuming is what they think they need to ask the questions on. So it's never their fault.
Yeah.
So I have to get that across a lot when I'm on longer form or when I'm in Q&As. It's like, look, I 100% get it, because 20 years ago, I wasn't sat there on Instagram consuming running content. Obviously, I had to go out and do this stuff and make all the mistakes. Yeah, people are scared to make mistakes. They think that if one bad run on Strava, it is like the end of the world. Yeah, or that their body knows what a difference between the session is. Yeah, I did 8x400 instead of 10x400. What do I do? It's like, it's just people. I can understand why people get so confused, so overwhelmed is probably the best word, and then end up feeling anxious about it all because they don't look like the 1% of the 1% that have got a big account on Instagram doing crazy stuff. Yeah, that have probably come from the gym world, jacked off their tits anyway, because they seem to be getting bigger, running 100 miles weeks. It's like, that doesn't have to be running. Yeah, you can do what we all used to do: go out in your old gym stuff. Yeah, be a bit self-conscious. Yeah, but go out, make the mistakes, do it in silence. Don't even put your runs out there. Yeah, and then 6 months, come back and ask me a question about that 6 months that you've just done. Yeah.
Look at the clock on the oven. Look at the time.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
look at it when you get back.
It just sounds like I'm being an old kind of crazy man these days. But But you do see a bit of a shift, I think, sometimes as well. Some of the people that have been running longer, or the people that have stayed with me a little bit longer, or even just scrolled longer, I think, they get to realise, oh, hang on a minute, this guy or girl's just regurgitating the same shit that they've seen on another Instagram post.
Yeah.
Because like, a lot of what you see is that, right? So they'll see one thing that works, so I'll go and do that in terms of a reel, and their reels or their content is all over the place. One on nutrition, one on strength, one on whatever. Yeah, it's like, what? They're just copying a reel after reel. So the information gets regurgitated. No one really knows what they're talking about. Yeah, they're all just talking at each other. A lot of running coaches that are putting stuff out there to impress other running coaches, I think. Yeah, or to prove themselves against other running coaches, rather than helping the people that they set out to help.
It's like those dudes. They're not doing it for,
Yeah,
and I'm not making, I'm not trying to cast aspersions, and I'm not suggesting that there's anything. It's a non-sexual thing. It's I'm going to go against other high rocks athlete.
Yeah, it's
or whatever.
And you know, and trends change, right? I don't know how long high rocks will last, but we've had CrossFit, we've had all sorts. Yeah, like what was a hybrid runner 10 years ago? It was just someone who did bit of strength training on the side, yeah, or
a bigger runner.
I get it. Community is great because there's also high rock specific gyms around, not far from where I am, and the community aspect of that is brilliant. If I'm honest, yeah, it's so if it's pulling people in and have a good community and they have good coaches behind it, fantastic. Yeah, but it's not the Olympics like some of like Instagram is making out. It's just an 8K run and you're pushing and pulling a few bits and pieces. It's basically, yeah. And then it's not high level sport. Yeah, there's some very talented athletes doing that stuff. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, that would eat me alive in a 10K. But it's not. You're not talking Olympic level athletes here, are we? Yeah.
One of the most.
I don't know what that question was. Sorry, it always ends up on high rocks or something.
Yeah. Just smash it. Just yelling at clouds. One of the most engaging, and of course we don't live in the same city, we don't live in the same hemisphere. One of the most engaging things to watch you cope with was the fact that you had a really serious long-term injury, and you were very honest about that, and honest about options, and honest about the length and time recovery. You know, you weren't running for a long time. How's that going for you?
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because like running turned into my career, not through talent, through kind of coaching other people. So done this full time for nearly 15 years, whether it be in the gyms and then outside and then online. And so running has been my career for 15 years. But it's also the thing that I obviously love to do, right? So yeah, what I was doing is I was struggling with an injury I'll try and keep it short, but I was struggling with an injury for about 3 months after a mountain race in Andorra, which was, it's called Pika Pika. So if you like mountains, look it up, but it's like a mountaineer's race more than a running race. You're not running. It's 12,000 meters of climb within 100K. Yeah, so it's all at altitude above 3,000 meters. It's hardcore, really. Yeah. So I came out of that struggling with what I was told was SI joint pain, inflammation around my hip area, and it would ease off and it would get better, and I run a bit and it would flare up again. And essentially what it was I'd herniated a disc in my back. It wasn't SI joint issue, but I hadn't gone for a scan. Well, couldn't afford it if I didn't think I needed it. But again, we just thought it was, with the physios I was seeing, we thought it was SI joint pain. So it come to a head after Christmas. About 4 months later, I took 2 weeks off running or doing anything completely. I just woke up one morning, like paralyzed from the waist down, naked in bed. It was like a week after my 40th birthday. So, yeah, it was obviously scary. But at first, I didn't put two and two together. I didn't realize it was my back because it was my leg, one leg in particular, but both legs were essentially paralyzed. I was sleeping on my side, but I couldn't even rock myself over. And and I've got 2 young kids and meant to take them to school and stuff. So I had to, like, my wife come up half an hour later saying, "What are you doing? Why haven't you got up?" But I just couldn't physically move. I was lying in bed crying, to be honest. She pushed me onto the toilet because I needed the toilet. She had to force me onto the toilet. So you can imagine the scene. Like, it's not pretty, but I just needed a wee, essentially. Got myself to the hospital, and it didn't have the best experience at my local hospital, if I'm honest. They did a couple of tests, but then wanted to send me to the doctor because they said that you need to see a doctor, essentially for pain relief. They wanted to get me on, yeah. Didn't send me for any x-rays or scans or anything, but a day later, nothing was happening. It was getting worse. I was still essentially paralysed from this leg. So I went to a back specialist physio friend of a friend that I know, and it was about an hour and a half away. Within 15 minutes, he recognised what the issue was and got me in a different hospital. And within 15 minutes of being in that hospital, they were like, "You need a scan and you need some serious tests." So it was like finger up the bum for cauda tests and stuff like this, and to check where I was at. And what had happened is the disc had herniated enough that it had broken off, so they call it sequestered, and it had broken through the nerve. And to be specific, it's the L5-S1, so the very bottom vertebrae, cut through that nerve, which is unfortunately the nerve that goes all the way through your leg, through essentially your heel and into your big toe. So yeah, I was screwed, if I'm honest. It cut through that nerve. So it was, I was gowned up for surgery, and then 15 minutes out of surgery, I could hear them almost arguing outside about if it was the right thing to do. And I had, again, I had about 20 minutes to decide whether I was going to have back surgery or not there and then. And it just so happens that one of the specialist physios in that group of people arguing followed me on Instagram, and I knew from races she's emergency medic and stuff. And and it's not like she could say don't do it, but what she could say was have a think, yeah. And I did have a think, and I just said because by then it had been enough time that, like, let's give him a chance to see if this improves without it, the pain. And it did. Slow progress, and that was in the January, and they basically said, I don't know if you'll run again or get function again, but you're not thinking that. Like I said, I've got 2 young kids. I couldn't kick a football in the back garden with them, for example, and stuff like this. So you're not even thinking about getting back to running, but my career is running, and I'm on Instagram, and it's like, how much do I share? I want to share some of it, but I don't want to turn into one of those people that I don't want it to be my identity either. Like my Instagram bio isn't going to be runner with nerve damage, yeah. Which, it's just, I'm not that person. So I just shared what I thought I could share, and if I'm honest, if you've got 100,000 plus followers and you put back injury on, you can imagine what my messages were like, yeah, ranging from, lick this frog and you'll be okay tomorrow, to you're never gonna run a step, and everything in between. Mm-hmm. So I just had to filter it out and just share what bits of the story I could share and be honest with it. And it was shit for 6 months, but that's all you could really say. And then I have started running again, and I've just got back into running, and it's not the same. I've still got nerve damage in my foot, so I'm not going to be competitive. And it's not like I was winning big races, but I was competitive with myself, and I loved that feeling in training. I'm not at that stage yet, but yeah, I'm running again and enjoying my running, which is the main thing.
How was Trans-Gran Canaria?
Yeah. I was hoping you weren't going to say, so how was Trans-Gran Canaria? Yeah.
We could edit it out in post if you want.
Yeah. Don't hire this coach. He just, got nerve damage and then jumped into that. It was brilliant, yeah. And it was... I'm close friends with a lot of race directors over here in the UK, but one of them particularly is turned into a really good friend. He runs what's called Centurion events. They're like classic 100-milers that have, and a lot of their race runners go over to New Zealand and to Tarare and stuff. So there's always that link. But it's good trail running, fast trail running, 100 milers and 50 milers. And one of his races is now a World Trail Major, which is Gran Canaria is the highlight event, I guess. So yeah, I went down, did some content for that race, and got invited off the back of that to essentially experience Trans Gran Canaria. They didn't know that I obviously couldn't run at the time, but it did give me. That was last June, and when was Gran Canaria? February. So it gave me time to give me a bit of a goal and see. As my friend James, who's the race director, I said, I think I can get to a point where I can maybe hike around that. And in worst case scenario, like he's doing it, so I can go out and crew you and support you, and it'd be something good for me. So yeah, it was really good to be out there. It was tough, and it wasn't what I'm used to, and it was I'm chasing cutoffs because I'm dragging this leg around, but I was in no pain. It's just that I've got a leg that doesn't fully function now. Yeah, but I haven't got the power and the strength that I had going up a hill specifically, but it was amazing to go out and get a finish line and do Trans Gran Canaria, because the way I described it is I don't know how many of those kind of experience I've got in the bank, if I'm honest. Yeah. So I have to. I'm being quite choosy with what I do going forwards, because I could wake up the same thing happen, or I just stop progressing, or I just used to love racing and going out on these things, but now I just So that has been amazing. Great memory. Just different. Yeah.
I feel like we've had a lot of Gary the coach. I think we need a bit of Gary the comedian that you're also known for.
Yeah. That's it. People get me on these things and they go, he's actually quite boring in real life. Why can't you do an hour stand-up?
I mean, it's interesting, right? Like, you've been through a lot, and it's been really cool hearing, where you've come from or where you've got to.
Yeah.
But I think, if you were to do stand-up, what would be one hilarious observation from the trail that you'd put into your routine?
Oh, don't do that to me. But yeah, it's always stuck. I think the best comedians tell the best stories, right? So a lot of it has an element of truth in it. So whether it's, my first, I tell this story a lot, but it's not like a funny joke or anything. It's just experience stuff. And my first ultra, I had to physically send off an application form. Yeah, because you're in this weird world of forums, aren't you? Remember forums and stuff? Yeah, but so you and then you go and meet a bunch of essentially old men in a field and hope that they turn up, because I was younger then, which they did, but it was pitch black and I'm in London. I didn't know my way around London, but I'm in a park in London, pitch black, and I've got 20 minutes to set off, and I obviously need a shit, basically. So I try and run back to my hotel, couldn't make it, run back, but it's pitch black. I'm in a field, I'm fine. So I drop my shorts and I think, I'm just going to have to go here. Yeah, but again, obviously, I didn't have a Garmin back then, didn't have a watch back then, right? So I just drop my shorts, do what I need to do. But as I do that, I've completely lost track of time, and there's 200 head torches running towards me across the field. I've missed the start. And I'm shitting all over where they're running, basically. So my first experience of ultra running, and a lot of other people's first experience of me in ultra running, was with my pants around my ankles. Doing that. So I think it would be story based. I would just tell story after story, because if you're runners, you could tell an hour's worth of stories and we'd be laughing for the hour, right?
Tell an hour's worth of shit stories.
I was just about to say the same thing.
And I'm sorry to get down to that level, but yeah, if it's
no, look,
that would be the opening story, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, I think it's talk about the autonomous intimacy of going for a group run. Like, that's the thing, isn't it? You find out within the first 15 to 20 steps that all we essentially are is a tube.
Well, these days,
surrounded with dirty water.
These days, it would be 10 camera phones out, gone viral, and then everybody made a career out of shitting in a field. So maybe that's someone could do. Yeah, if you can't run across the country, just do that.
Exactly. What have I been doing my whole life? There was a thing in the local paper here which talked about, like, basically in Riverhead there was during the during the pandemic, there was an explosion of use and an explosion of dog walkers, and
I thought you
also
were going to say something else.
well, no, people shitting in the woods as well, and myself included. And there's a couple of dog walkers. One of their dogs, took a shoulder charge into a.
Your dog.
No, it wasn't my dog. My dog
not
has
your
done
dog.
that. Yes, my dog has
Okay.
done that. How many times he rolled in human shit in Riverhead? Twice. And it was a dead possum the other night. I don't know if you heard the yelling from Rotorua. I totally lost my mind. He's screaming, chasing him around. He's so happy. But when it came out in the Herald, like this appalled dog walker had contacted a local journalist who put it in the Herald, and it's like phantom shitter in Riverhead Forest. And in the group chat, we were like, is it any of us? Like, are we the person? Is this us? So we, stick to your etiquette, 400 feet back from the trail and 6 foot deep trench and what have you. Yeah.
Stick and flick.
That's exactly right. Hey, look, you've been very generous with your time. I've got 2 more questions. Do you have a
Go
question?
for it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Deadpool up the shops? Because you're in Wrexham, aren't you?
I'm probably 20, 30 minutes outside of Wrexham, yeah.
So have you ever seen Deadpool up the shops?
No, explain.
Ryan Reynolds, Wrexham, Deadpool.
Oh, God, yeah, sorry. Deadpool. I thought you said
Sorry,
Deadpool.
my accent. Deadpool. Have you ever seen? Well, he's my cousin.
From Wrexham, that could be someone's nickname. Sorry,
Deadpool. Yeah. I was born in Swansea, so I've lost the accent. But
Yeah.
yeah. South
there we
I've got
go.
the South Welsh teeth and physique.
Yeah, so I take my daughter mainly to the Wrexham matches. She's got no clue who Deadpool is or who Ryan Reynolds is, but obviously
Probably a good idea.
It's been good for that. Yeah, but my wife, I get filled in by my wife, who's obviously was a big Blake Lively fan and now isn't for whatever reason. I'm not going to go into that, but I get told not to be a fan of hers these days. But it is mad. So yeah, I did come out of the pub and like Wolverine was there though, and yeah. So it's
Hugh Jackman.
yeah, Hugh Jackman was there. Who's your man? Who was the who was the stripper
Phil?
guy? I'm so bad with names.
Stripper
Magic
guy.
Mike.
Oh yeah, Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum was here,
Yeah.
but I didn't bump into him, but he was in the hotel not too far away, so that was obviously a big deal, and it is good, but yeah, it's funny because it's still Wrexham, and it's very similar. It's very similar to some of the towns that I've visited up on that North Island, so it's you can imagine you can't just stick a star in there and everyone changes overnight. But it's been good. It's been good. A good injection of like positivity. I'll give it that.
Absolutely. Look, Gary, you talk about an injection of positivity. You've been so generous with your time. I, for one, really appreciate what you bring to the space and the positivity. And like you said, it never comes across as mean or judgy or hectoring. It's funny. And
that's because you have a sense of humour, though.
Well, I think, you don't ever come to Sydney, you'll get descended on by a bunch of big jack dudes.
No, there's certain towns and cities I have to avoid, I think.
Been blacklisted.
I'm always looking over my shoulder in London because it's quite similar, yeah.
Hey, look, Gary, we'll ask you the question we ask everyone who comes on to Dirt Church Radio, and that's, what's been your greatest run ever?
Do you know what? Like, I've been lucky. I've done lots of different races. I've been in my younger years, I guess. I won a few races and done some great things. I still go back to those first couple of runs down the canals. Like I said, I know we started with that, but because it was so simple, right? I'm just going for a run and I'm feeling crap every time I go for that run. And it's the first run was easy. The first one was easy. The one I always value is the second one. Because you go for the first one, and I'm like, yeah, I'm a fit 20-year-old. I play a bit of football, stick my trainers on, and I'm out that door. And within minutes, I'm like hands on knees and sitting on a bench. So going for that second run, I actually didn't want to go for it at all. And I think that's the same experience everyone kind of goes through, unless you've been brought up with it. And so I always go back to the second run. Yeah, the second run, I felt a bit more accomplished the second time because it was still shit, but it was, for whatever reason, that was me hooked, I guess. Yeah. So I can always remember, I can visit, like, I can always see those runs down the canal and the people that I met and the experiences and the bonking in terms of nutrition and all that stuff. Yeah, and I can remember the music that I listened to down those canals, whereas last 10 years is a bit of a blur, 15 years is a blur, and I've been to some amazing places. So yeah, I'd just go back to the boring old canal of Manchester, I think.
Favourite Welsh band?
Don't
say Stereophonics.
No, I'm not going to say Stereophonics. I'm not the biggest fan. I'm just sad old Oasis fan. I'm such an Oasis fan.
They're not Welsh. They're from Manchester.
I know they're not Welsh, yeah, but I'm going to have to say that, yeah. And again, 20 years ago, the Manchester music scene and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm gonna have to say Oasis. Yeah,
I'm a Super Furry Animals man myself.
I like them. Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah. If you give me Super Furry Animals, Manic Street Preachers, and Stereophonics, I'd go with Super Furry Animals. Yeah.
Wicked.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, look, thank you so much. Enjoy your day, and hope to see you soon.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
I really hope he does see Deadpool down the shops.
Deadpool or Deadpool.
Either one, like you said.
No, that was funny.
Yeah. What I didn't say to Gary is I grew up. I was born and lived for a while in Swansea, which is down the bottom of Wales.
Yeah,
very much. It's down there in the south of Wales, and there very much would be a Deadpool wandering around Swansea right now, I'm sure. What an amazing chat! Like. It's incredible, isn't it? Social media is something that, you got to kind of scale yourself into, isn't it? And try to balance. But he's making it work. And like you said at the top, funny, but some really amazing sound advice that cuts through.
Yeah, he's definitely worth a follow. I enjoy seeing him on my feed.
100%. I quite like the fact that he's got one of those road mics and he uses a stick.
Yeah.
Like other than
great.
A touch of genius. But look, thanks, Gary, and thanks very much for all of you for tuning in. Dirt Church Radio is presented by me, Matt Raymond.
Me, Ali Pottinger.
And our old mate, Andrew McDowell. We're on all the podcast platforms, so like, follow, and give us a rating. It helps.
We're on social media at Dirt Church Radio, email at dirtchurchradio@gmail.com. Now, don't forget to sign up to our Substack for weekly newsletters and Aid Station podcasts. Don't forget to write in with your greatest run ever. We'd love to hear from you, and you can read them on the website too. And thanks to our supporters, Further Faster, That's It, Squadron, and our Substack subscribers in the DCR Aid Station crew. Stay tuned for our show in 2 weeks when we have another great guest lined up.
Mā te wā.